Welcome back. Today I'm transforming this small inner city courtyard. The original paving is old, cracked 1970s brick, and there's mud wherever you look. But we're about to create something timeless, practical, and full of character, using beautiful, reclaimed, pressed red bricks. I'm going to start by removing this old paving. Given that it was laid in the 70s, I'm going to put a mask on just in case there's any nasty building materials under it. As you can see, this paving was laid without a crushed rock base, or any base at all, so it's no surprise that it's broken up a bit over time. Honestly, I'm a little surprised it's held up as well as it has. Just in case there is any asbestos underneath, I'm spraying it all with water before I lift it out. The water will help prevent the release of fibres into the air if it gets broken up. Now that the paving has been removed, I'm going to dig out about 200 millimeters of soil to allow for the crushed rock base and mortar bed. Paving is only as good as its base, and this digging sets the stage for everything that comes next. It's worth taking the time to get it right and avoid any height issues later on. It's not the most glamorous part of the job, but if you have a good audiobook and a cup of coffee, it can actually be quite enjoyable. If pushing 4 cubic meters of soil up a hill doesn't sound like much fun to you, just look on the bright side. At least it's not raining. Once we've started digging, it's important to make sure we remove the right amount of soil. Not too little, not too much. To do this, I'm setting up string lines at the correct level. That way I can measure down from them. Before laying any paving, the very first question you need to answer is, where is the water going to go? Drainage is absolutely crucial, especially when you're working with mortar paving. Unlike paving on sand, where water can penetrate through the gaps and soak into the soil, mortar creates a solid, impermeable surface. That means all the water landing here needs somewhere to flow. If you don't manage it properly, water will pool near your house walls, fences, or shed, causing damage and even undermining your paving base. In this courtyard, the paving is sloped in 2 key directions. First, it follows the natural slope of the garden toward the driveway, shed, and deck steps, so water naturally runs downhill. To manage where the water ends up, I'm installing a strip drain. This catchment channel will collect runoff and direct it safely away, ideally linking into the stormwater system. To direct the water here, I'm going to set a second slope away from the fence. This means that my drain is at the lowest point of the paving. Now that we have the correct slopes on the strings, you can measure down and remove any soil that isn't 200 millimeters lower than the line. Now, this part, the crushed rock base, is absolutely critical. If you take away just one tip from this video, it's this: your paving is only as good as its base. Why is the base so important? Because it's the foundation that supports every brick and every step you take on your courtyard. Without a solid base, everything above it is vulnerable to movement, sinking, cracking, you name it. We dug down 200 millimeters below the old paving. Now we're going to add about 100 millimeters of crushed rock. This crushed rock, sometimes called road base, is made of sharp, angular stones that lock together tightly when compacted. Unlike soil, which can absorb water and expand or contract, crushed rock drains water efficiently and keeps moisture away from the surface layers. This prevents puddling and reduces ground heave, meaning your paving will stay level and crack-free for much longer. Compacting this layer solidly creates a stable, durable platform that doesn't shift or settle over time, even with heavy foot traffic. I'm using a straight edge and a level to make sure the crushed rock is nice and flat. Once you're happy that it's evenly spread and flat, you can grab a plate compactor and give it a good whack down. Compacting the crushed rock firmly gives us a strong, stable foundation that prevents sinking or movement. Skipping or skimping on this step is one of the biggest reasons new paving jobs fail prematurely. It can look good for a few months or even a year, but without a proper base, movement and unevenness are almost inevitable. Now that all the hard work's done, it's time for the fun part, the bricks. These aren't just any bricks. These are locally made pressed reds, over 100 years old. Made white here from clay pressed into individual molds and then fired in high-temperature kilns. They're incredibly durable with a distinctive look that has stood the test of time. That longevity means your new courtyard will be both timeless and durable for decades to come. Reusing these bricks is also fantastic for the environment. It's a sustainable choice that helps reduce waste and the energy footprint involved in making new materials. Plus, they bring a bit of history and character that new bricks simply can't match. Laying the paving on mortar, as we're doing here, instead of a sand bed, comes with some real long-term benefits. Mortar creates a solid, locked surface that lasts much longer than sand-laid paving, especially in high-traffic areas. Because the joints are fixed with mortar, weeds have a much harder time finding their way up, so you'll spend less time weeding between the bricks. It's also much easier to pressure wash the surface clean. Nothing shifts, and there's no sand washing out between the joints. Mortared paving is also better for creating perfectly level surfaces, and is ideal if you want to include features like steps or curved edges. Plus, the whole area feels more stable underfoot, supporting heavy furniture and entertaining with no movement beneath you. All these factors combine to make mortar paving a fantastic choice when you want a durable, low-maintenance finish. While mortar paving has lots of great advantages, it's worth mentioning that it's not always the best choice everywhere. If you live in an area with very cold winters and heavy frosts, or very reactive soils, mortar paving can be prone to cracking and breaking over time. That's mainly because of ground heave. When water in the soil freezes and expands, it pushes the paving upwards. Mortar is rigid and doesn't handle this movement well. Before laying any bricks, setting up string lines is a crucial step. These strings mark exactly where the edges of your paving will be, so it's here you make sure all levels, slopes and angles are absolutely perfect. Take your time to get this right. Any mistakes now will be very costly down the line, leading to uneven surfaces or drainage problems that are difficult and expensive to fix. Make sure the strings are as tight as possible to minimize sagging in the middle, which can give you a false reading. The straighter the line, the more accurate your guide will be. And don't forget to use a string line level to check that you have the correct slope. This ensures water drains away properly and your paving won't hold puddles or cause problems with runoff. With solid, level string lines in place, you've got a reliable frame to build on. It sets the foundation for a professional, long-lasting paving job. Okay, let's start mixing up some mortar. If you don't have a mixer, you can do this step by hand in a barrow, but you might need another cup of coffee at this point. I'll put a link to a video on how to mix mortar without a mixer in the video description for you. If you've got this far, you've probably learned a fair bit about paving on mortar already. I do have another video that shows the process for a basket weave pattern. I'll also put that in the video description in case you want to take a look. The mortar mix I'm using here is 4 parts brick sand to 1 part cement. If you want more information on how to mix this to the right consistency, I recommend watching my How to Pave on Mortar video or How to Mix Mortar in a Barrow video. To get this first row in, I'm going to follow my 2 sting lines to get it on the right angle. One thing to know about these pressed reds, because they were handmade over a century ago, their sizes vary. Some are 20mm longer and 10mm wider than others, which makes laying them a bit of an art. To get a neat, attractive pattern, you need to consider these differences carefully and adjust your laying pattern and mortar joints accordingly. This gives the paving a unique, rustic charm, but does require a bit of patience and concentration. Once you've finished the first row, move your string line across for the next one. Allow for the width of the brick, plus 8 to 10mm for the grout line. Use your guidelines, the string running horizontally, to make sure that you're getting the right angle for drainage. Just keep moving your sting lines across for each row. You're going to be doing this for a while. Remember that audiobook you started during the beginning stage? Well, now is a good time to lock back into it. Let's talk about the pattern I've chosen for these beautiful old pressed reds. Here, I'm laying them in a running bond, also known as a stretcher bond. This is the most common brick layout you'll see in residential landscapes, and for good reason. Unlike basket weave or stack bond patterns, the running bond layout staggers each brick so that the joints are never aligned. This breaks up the straight lines, meaning stress and weight are distributed much more evenly. The result? A much stronger, more durable surface that's less likely to crack over time. This pattern looks fantastic in small patios and entertainment areas, making spaces feel organized and classic. It can handle significant weight from outdoor furniture, planters, and even the endless flow of guests coming and going. There's a lot of versatility too. There are several variations on the running bond. You can mix them for a unique look or stick with the classic. Either way, it's well suited to the scale of this courtyard and gives a timeless, harmonious result. So if you want a hard-wearing, good-looking finish with minimal waste, the running bond or stretcher bond pattern is hard to beat, especially in small garden entertaining spaces like this. Unless the weather has been very cold or wet, it's usually okay to walk carefully on the paving the following day. You do want to be careful not to accidentally kick any bricks out of position though. They will need to be set in new mortar if you do dislodge any. I'm going to leave some space for a small garden bed next to the fence. The green will soften the area nicely and help hide the fence. Because the bricks were salvaged from a demolition, they often need a bit of a scrape down to remove any old mortar. It's usually pretty easy to get off, but any stubborn parts can be removed later when we give it an acid wash. Just leave out any bricks that need to be cut for now. We'll get to them at the next step. To soften the look and better integrate with the garden beds, I'm going to introduce a gentle curve to the edge. This is going to sit on top of our paving to hold back the garden soil and also neatly finish it off without having to do too many cuts. Curved edges break up the harsh lines traditionally associated with brick paving and add visual interest, making the courtyard feel more inviting and organic. Any broken bricks are great to use for the cuts. It saves on wastage as well. I'm going to get the strip drain ready. I'll concrete it into place at the same time as I put the cuts in around it. Once it is set, I'll hook it up to the stormwater. Dropping the cuts into place is always one of the most satisfying parts of the job. When setting your drain in place, make sure it sits slightly lower than the bricks to allow any water to easily run into it. Don't worry if there's a small gap, we're going to fill it with grout later on. Angle your drain in the direction that you want the water to run. Don't skip the fine details. It's worth spending 5 minutes to put in the small cuts. They always look great at the end. To finish off the edge of the paving, you're going to want to add a berm. This holds the bricks on the outside securely in place and stops them from being dislodged by wheelbarrows or lawnmowers in the future. Don't worry, This will be covered with soil and won't be visible. With all the bricks now in place, the final step to lock everything together is the grouting. I'm using a wet mix of sand and cement, about 3 parts sand to 1 part cement. This gives a strong weather-resistant joint that helps stop weeds and keeps the paving solid. The aim is to really work this mix down into every joint. There are a couple of ways to do it. First is with a trowel, pressing the grout firmly into the cracks to make sure there are no voids. Another option is to use a grout bag, which operates much like a piping bag you'd use for icing a cake. Simply fill it up, then squeeze the mix along the joints so it's placed precisely where you need it. This method can be neater and often cuts down on cleaning, since there's usually less excess to sponge off the surface. The only thing to watch out for is blockages. If your mix is too dry or contains any small stones or unmixed clumps, the bag can clog up quickly. So, make sure your grout is well mixed and just wet enough for a smooth, easy flow. Once all the joints are filled, I sponge the surface clean with water. The key here is to wring the sponge out well. You don't want to dilute the grout in the joints, and to rinse the sponge often. Grouting does more than just tidy to look. It binds the paving together, adds strength, and ensures a smooth, comfortable surface underfoot. Once the grouting is done and you've cleaned the surface, you might notice a slight haze from cement residue on the bricks. That's where an acid wash comes in. It's a quick, effective way to restore brightness and remove that film. But timing is everything here. Before using any acid, make sure the grout has fully set, which usually takes 1 to 2 weeks depending on the weather. If you rush the acid wash before the grout's set, you risk turning it yellow or, even worse, washing the grout out of the joints. So, patience pays off. Once the grout is fully cured, dilute the acid as recommended, apply evenly, scrub it with a stiff brush, and then rinse thoroughly with plenty of water to neutralize any residue. I'll be making a video showing the process once this grout is dried. This courtyard has come a long way. From a muddy, uneven garden to a space that's timeless, durable, and full of character. With the right preparation, quality materials, and a bit of patience, you can create something that not only looks beautiful, but will last for decades to come. I hope you found this video helpful, and good luck with your paving project. Feel free to leave a comment below with any questions. I'm always happy to help where I can.